get like the lowest possible price and you know what questions to ask. It's really just about building a relationship with a company. If you're working with someone and you haven't talked to them in a year, if you're working with someone and you don't feel like you have a relationship with them, call them, ask them something and see what it's like before you actually need something. Like, call them when you don't need something and see how you get help. And then that way you know when you're ready, like if you have the right partner or not. And if you don't, then consider looking for another partner.
It's Movified Mondays. It's Movified Mondays, where mindset meets momentum. The start of the week where real movers reset, refocus, and rise.
Welcome back to Movified. I'm your host, Mark Hershey, owner of Salmons and Ellis Moving and Storage, located in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. It is Movified Mondays. You know what that means? We are hitting it hard. We have a great guest on today. But look, here's what the biggest kicker. And if you guys really scroll back to an old episode I did with Travis Weathers from Rotate Digital, and we kind of went through the whole rigmarole of, man, I get 1,000 phone calls a day going, let me build your website. And I go, sure, how much? And they're like, $500. And I said, okay. Or you get the phone call that says, I can get you page 1 on Google with this specific keyword, and it's only going to cost you a couple $100. And you're like, okay, but this is never going to work. We definitely ran through it. And today we're talking about payment processing because every moving company gets the same call. We can save you money on payment processing. Your rates are way too high. Your current provider is ripping you off. And you know what, 100%, I bet you they are. But very few owners actually know how to tell who is actually telling the truth. I don't know. But today, you know what? It's even better because we have the founder of Remedy Payments. We got Alex Dimitrakopoulos.
That was good.
Was it pretty good? I told Alex, good. I'm like, do not say your last name. I'm going to give it a shot. You had to pick the hardest name. It reminds me of Brian. I want to say Brian Scrumpulopoulos. He is the president of IAM, and he's gonna kill me if he hears how I just pronounce his last name. But I like it. I like it. That's Greek, right?
Yes.
Greek. Yeah, I love it. Alex, welcome to Movified. How's it going?
Thank you.
Guy?
Doing really well. Yeah. I haven't been on many podcasts, so this is kind of a first for me. So thank you.
Well, it's perfect. And you know what? It's at an ideal time. Everybody's kind of kicking off the new year, figuring out, where to save money. How can I do this? How can I do that? And, I remember a flashback to when I just took over Action Movers. Like, we're scaling back like 2008. They had a payment processing company. I want to say it was with Moneris at the time. That was always the go-to, right? It still is kind of the go-to. Everybody knows about Moneris. It's one of those big names. It's like, oh, I need junk removal. I'm just going to phone 1-800-GOT-JUNK, right? But you probably have 1,000 other great providers that are out there. Good marketing, good branding. Let's go with Moneris. And I get a phone call from somebody going, oh, you're overpaying, right? We're going to help you. We're going to save you on your payment fees. And I'm thinking, like, this sounds great, and it's the same issue, right? Send us the last, was it like 2-3 months of your bank statements that you're paying with your payment processing. We're going to go through it and we're going to see where you can save. And they send me back all of this great savings. Oh, wow, you're paying X amount. We can help you save here. And I was like, great, done. Like, sign me up, right? Next thing you know, I'm signed up on a 3-year plan. My monthly payments are much more higher than they originally were. And I'm stuck and I'm trying to get out. I don't know what to do. And it's a constant issue. And I'm like, how do I get out of this? How do I figure this out? Alex, you obviously behind the scenes see like refunds, disputes, processing fees, merchant risk, like every day. You probably hear this story day in and day out from so many people. Can we, I want to kind of just jump into it right away. What is the best case scenario? Right? Like, I'm not advertising Remedy. I'm just a moving company owner or a business owner that feels I'm paying way too much on my fees. How do I, what are some of the target questions I need to be asking when switching over to a different payment processing company?
Good question. One of the first things to do is don't let the processor themselves try and come out of the gate and tell you like how you're going to process and how much it's going to cost. the first thing that they need to understand is they need to understand how you're going to process. So, for example, if you come to me and you say, I want a quote for processing payments, if I give you a quote without diving into how your crew is going to be in the field accepting payments, how you're going to accept deposits, are you doing pre-authorizations? There are so many little pieces that dictate the overall rate that you're going to pay. And even when you find, like, we have customers that are on the exact same pricing structure, some of those customers are paying 1.5%. Some of those customers are paying 3.5%. What really determines your rate is going to be that overall interchange wholesale cost. And that makes up like 90 to 95% of what you're going to be paying. So you really need an expert that's going to come in and like understand how you're going to process so that they can propose items on like how you can save. Like one small example is American Express. American Express transactions are typically the most expensive. You as a mover have some control over whether or not you're going to accept American Express from your customers. They start with the number 3. You can turn it off at the processor level, or you could tell your crew or people who are answering the phone and taking payments over the phone, hey, if it starts with a 3, just kindly ask, do you mind paying with a Visa? Most of the time, they're not going to mind, and that's just going to help you bring that overall rate down. And so when you're searching and you have all these people pitching you on different rates and different pricing, you really need to also just understand yourself. Like, do you process a lot of debit cards? Debit cards are really inexpensive. The cost in the US, in Canada, if you're doing it with a card present solution, they're almost free. In the US, when you process a debit card, it's about 0.05%. And so if you have 0.05% making up like half of the volume on your account, well, that's going to bring that overall rate down. Whereas if the opposite happens and it's an American Express, that's going to bring your rate up. So you as the merchant, you need to be aware of the blend of cards that you're accepting so that you can kind of keep it low on your own.
Before we ever started using a moving CRM, someone asked me, could you 10x what you're doing right now with the current systems and processes you have in place? And I said no. And so he was like, well, then you need to just pull the trigger on the software. And then I saw Smart Moving and it was game over.
Austin joined thousands of moving owners on Smart Moving in 2021. Since then, he's more than doubled his business.
And I always compare Smart Moving to Apple products. It's just so simple, so easy to use. And that's really what's allowed my team to scale and now have 2 branches. And last year we scaled Central Coast Moving over 50% growth.
If you're ready to turn your moving company into a machine that drives profit, not chaos, try Smart Moving.
Hey everyone, Matty Mailers here, the guy who pioneered handwritten letters for the moving industry. Why? Because my competition at my moving company was using the same stock postcards as me, and my mailing company didn't care. So I created a better way. Here's some mind-blowing results in July. Miracle Movers Utah closed $93,000 using our handwritten letter strategy. With our campaigns, you can forget about the guessing games. You get a trackable phone number, daily photo proof, an incredible design team, and I'm also included. All letters stop at me for approval before they ever leave our facility. Right now, Movified listeners get 1,000 golden tickets stuffed in our genuine handwritten letters completely free. Plus, I'm going to throw in bulk realtor data for up to 5 counties. What are you waiting for? Moving Letters AI. Stop competing, start dominating.
Oh man, I just got filled with about 1,000 different questions now. Let's start with one. I love that answer, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the biggest things that I learned was that company did not do their due diligence to understand what we were doing. And I find that there's a big difference, and especially, you fast forward now to 2026, everything is remote, everything is mobile, people are on the roads all the time. And it's a huge difference between having a payment processing machine on you, having a storefront, charging those credit cards, or having a take over the phone, take over some different type of machine. And there's different rates that go into that, which I learned afterwards. I was like, why am I paying so much? And it's because they set me up as if I was just a store. And there is it's a qualified and then non-qualified processing. And what I realized is that we're doing so much non-qualified processing because the cards are not in our hands. We're taking the numbers over the phone, and those rates are much higher. So 100%. So I agree with you. So definitely make sure that you're working with a company that actually understands and you are giving them the breakdown of how you're running your operations. Switch over to Remedy, right? I'd probably say a mass majority of the people that are listening to us right now are working with Remedy, whether they are smart mover users, or Supermove or Movegistics or Move It Pro, some of the major CRMs that are providing us with services to run our companies, they're funneled through Remedy. So if I was a company going, okay, I'm working with Remedy, I want to have my guys with a credit card machine. Like, does that make sense? Do you guys provide that? Because I'm thinking in my head, okay, in the States compared to Canada, a lot of people have like a Visa debit card in the United States, whereas in Canada, it's you have a debit card and then you have a credit card, right? So if I was someone that goes, oh, hey, wait a second, like I could be taking Interact payments, right? A lot of people are going, oh, can I just pay by e-transfer? But then it's like, now you're waiting for that e-transfer. If someone could just pay by debit, can they do that with smart moving, or do they need like an actual terminal in their hand to process a debit card?
So in the US, you actually get grandfathered into a Durbin Amendment, which was an amendment that came out a while back that regulates debit card pricing. Here in the US, if you process for example, a Bank of America, a regulated debit card, which means it's issued from like a big bank, the cost is 0.05%. If you manually key it in, it's 0.05%. If you use a device, it's 0.05%. So in the US, you don't get the same benefit that you do in Canada. In Canada, it's actually pretty significant. Interac ends up being like basically free. And then if you don't process it in an Interac fashion using a device, then you end up at that like 1.65, 1.75%. So it's a significant difference. We actually learned this the other day because we had a Canadian customer asking us specifically about this. And I thought it worked similar to how it did in the US, but I pulled up a couple of merchant statements from people that we process for in Canada and was able to kind of figure out that debit cards do need to be processed through Interac in Canada to get that rate. Now, in the US, there's a lot of card present solutions that are coming out. It's all up to the software provider, the Smart Movings, the Move It Pros to do the integration themselves. So, like Remedy has its own physical devices that we could deploy all day long, but it's not going to talk to your CRM. And the savings is about 0.3 to 0.4%. So while it is something, it does add a new layer that you now have to reconcile out all these transactions manually because it's not talking to your software. The physical device isn't. So in the US, you really need your software provider to have that integrated. Now, in terms of smart moving, we're working on what's called tap to pay. So you wouldn't even need an external device other than your phone or tablet, and you'll be able to process in-person card present transactions at card present rates by tapping a card onto a device itself.
Oh wow! So I'm using Smart Moving. I'm running through the final stages, presenting the customer with the final bill. They go to pay, and it's now just as easy as they just tap their card to run the payment. And
That's coming. It's not ready yet.
I know. It's not sure. It's in the garage, right? It's like slowly. It's in the bus stop. I get it. We can plan for this in 2028, guys. Don't worry. When it comes to the actual terminal machines, does Remedy provide those terminals? Because if I didn't have this option, like I am in Canada and I need that debit card in my hand. Do you provide those? Do you work with like an outsourced party? How do we get a terminal then to process payments?
Yeah, we supply terminals. We would deploy one, ship it directly to you. It would be downloaded, programmed, and ready to go. You basically take it out of the box, and now this would be something I would imagine would be mobile, and you would be taking into the field with you. But yeah, very easy to do. The only consideration you really have is the crew tends to break them, and so there is a cost to having these devices, and the benefit is the savings. But if they're breaking one on a weekly basis, you're going to eat into that savings pretty quickly. But no, easy to do. Honestly, it should be easy with most processors. They do have these types of solutions.
What do you think is the most common lies, or I was going to say half truths. Let's just say they're lies that processors use to win movers over?
Guaranteed savings is always number one, because that's the one thing you want to hear about and you're most concerned about as a mover. You think, like, I process a credit card, it should just work. Every credit card processor is a commodity in their minds, but in reality, it's not. It doesn't work like that because you have so much that goes into the cost itself. But if they're not providing the support that's helping you save money and alleviate problems, that's really going to add to the overall cost that you have for that solution. So the number one thing is always just price. Everyone's promising we guarantee to save you money. And then you get hit with a lot of like 1.5%, 1.6%. Like people that are throwing out those types of flat rates, it's basically your qualified, non-qualified pricing structure where basically nothing is going to qualify for 1.6 and you're not going to get that rate on anything. Everything's going to qualify for something more expensive. So if someone's over promising on a flat rate that sounds too good to be true, and anything honestly less than 2.5% on a flat rate is probably too good to be true right now, especially in the US. Canada's a little different. Um, but yeah, rates are always a big one.
Is it easy to negotiate? Like, I mean, most of us, like, especially for myself, I'm always like, no, you got to do better, right? You got to do better. Poor Alex had to deal with that with me when I switched over to Remedy, right? But like, is there typical always a flex that can be pulled when you're trying to switch over to a payment processing company?
Most of the time there is. Most of the time there is some way that you could save money. Now that being said, in order to negotiate, you have to understand what you're talking about. And most of the time when people go to their credit, they don't. And they're just like, I know you can do better. I know you can save me money. And so at that point you end up getting like a little something here or there. But if you knew how to analyze your statement, dive into it, and really identify if they're marking anything up more than it should be, that's where you really are going to get that better rate that you deserve.
What about the ones that are going, okay, but I hear you, Alex. I've been working with a payment processing company. Let's just use Remedy, for example, because this has been brought up in conversations going, for the last several years. And then they go, yeah, but now the next thing is I'm being charged more. Like my fees have went up. My pricing has went up. Why is all this stuff going way more increased than what I was paying before?
So you have every year you have Visa, MasterCard, all the card issuing brands, they come out and they update interchange every April and every October. So like clockwork, you're going to see your rate naturally increase every April and October because they're putting new fees into place that processors like Remedy have to pay for. And so as those fees continue to get put in place, it just raises the overall cost on your account. It's not necessarily that your processor, your Remedy is raising your rate, but the underlying wholesale cost that is the biggest component of your overall pricing, that has gone up, and that's why your rate is raising. And you do see it often. And Visa, I think, was even in the court last year about capping interchange rates because they really want to raise them higher. You, as the merchant, when you have all these rewards and all these benefits and points that are getting issued to the consumer, you, as the merchant, are essentially paying for those because if they're giving 2% cash back on a transaction, they have to be charging you at least 2%. Otherwise, this is going to be a quick way to go out of business. And so what you have is you have benefits rising on credit cards because people are trying to get you to switch off the 2% credit card. Now we'll give you 2.5%. And that's just driving that cost higher and higher. So you do need some regulation to kind of cap interchange at a certain degree. Otherwise, what's to stop from just continuing to increase points and points and points? And movers at a lower profit margin often have to end up eating a lot of that.
Is that generally what happens? Because the big phrase always is going, well, sure, you can pay by credit card. Just pick whichever one gives you the most points. And in reality, you're like, no, actually, can you use that student Visa card that you have like absolutely no benefit from, and it's that low interest because that's going to keep my fees down much lower.
100%.
Okay,
That's exactly how it works.
good to know. Is everybody writing this one down? Because we say this a lot. I know, going like, well, that's fine. Like whatever gives you the most points. So it definitely. Is there alternatives? Is there ways that moving companies can try and work with some type of points companies? In Canada we had like the Aeroplan points or Air Miles. Can we start looking outside the box to try and offer our clients a lot more benefits than going, great, use this card because it's going to give you points?
Not really. Not really. I mean, it really it's in their hand to kind of choose what they want to use, and there wouldn't be a way for you to put together like this benefit plan that they would be able to access outside of their credit card networks. That would be a tough one. But there are things that movers can do to lower their costs. Alternative payments. There's a lot of other payment types out there that you can consider. You have the Zells, you have the Venmos. We integrated e-check processing into Smart Moving, and the wholesale cost on that is 0.75%. So you can keep your cost below 1%, get 2-day funding, which is pretty quick for an e-check transaction. And then we're building in a lot of functionality because a lot of people don't like the idea that a check could bounce, and a check can bounce just like an e-check can bounce. But what we're doing is we're building in mechanisms to help movers recollect that payment if it does bounce. So in Smart Moving, we're going to have an email that gets sent to the customer if an e-check bounces, prompting them to make an additional payment. We're also going to allow movers to keep a credit card on file. That way, if the e-check does bounce, they have a credit card saved that they could use for billing, but they're keeping their overall costs down. So as movers want to keep costs down, there's a lot of things in their hand and in their control that they could try and implement. I mean, negotiating with the processor is always one way, but when your processor is working for free on your account, they might not be as inclined to answer the phone when you call them. And so like doing what you can do as well is really important.
If you're considering Snowball, just do it.
Snowball creates done-for-you referral programs for moving companies so you can turn happy customers into new revenue without lifting a finger. And the results speak for themselves.
In less than a year, we've collected over 2,000 referrals.
We generated over $200,000 of revenue that cost about $5,000 to do it.
I believe we have 4 or 5 the very first day.
The companies winning with Snowball are the ones that already care about their customers. We just help turn that into new business through human outreach and customer nurturing.
Snowball is part of the arsenal of tools that I recommend to my clients because it works.
Being found on the second page of Google is literally like having a billboard in the middle of the desert. Your mama ain't gonna see it. No one's gonna see it. You're on the second page of Google, no one's gonna call, no one's gonna book. Here is the deal. If your business is not ranking on the top of Google, that means your competitors are going to be stealing your customers every single day. So at Rotate Digital, we don't play any guessing games. We use data-driven SEO strategies to make sure Google finds you first so that these Google searches turn into your customers, not your competitors' customers. How do we do it? We do it through AI-driven keyword optimization, exclusive blog networks, backlinking strategies, and honestly, the secret stuff, the proprietary lead attribution software. So what do you get as a result? You get not only good marketing, but now you get clarity into what is bringing you more revenue. So if that's something you want to do, you want to make sure your leads find you and not your competition, go ahead and go to rotatedigital.com, schedule a call, and we'll help you take your business to the top of Google.
Well, I think when it comes down to especially taking checks, I remember I used to be blown away when I took over Salmon's and they were still accepting checks, like just regular checks all the time. And I would probably say 99% of it was never bouncing. Like there was never an issue with checks. They would send off an invoice, a client would end up paying, and then, slowly, depending on how the economics of Canada was going, there would always be like a check here or there that would bounce, or a credit card that wouldn't go through. In the States, I can only imagine it being 10 times worse because you have way more moves that are going on, different situations, life stories, and someone's going, oh, great, can I just pay by e-check? I get it that you got a credit card, but now that check doesn't go through, it bounces. The credit card they gave you is already maxed out. That's why they want to pay by check. Is there any more stipulations that your payment processing can help on that? Or are you just kind of like your hands are tied and now you're showing up to their house with a bat?
Showing up to their house with a bat. But It's also really important for movers to know their customers. When it comes to even chargebacks, fraud-related chargebacks, when you have customers that are like trying to prepay for a move and you're not asking them to prepay, it's kind of a red flag right there that maybe this customer is wanting to make sure the transaction is going to go through because it's not really their credit card. And so,
Well, yeah. So like, let's talk about those kind of scenarios for sure.
chargebacks are wild in the moving industry. And I guess not the problem, but the reason they're so wild is the amount of each chargeback is so much. I mean, it's for moving services, not like a pack of gum and a soda from the convenience store. And so I learned this early on. I got in payments with movers in 2017, and I had a mover, one of ours, have a chargeback for $15,000, and the son had used the father's credit card at the father's like accord. He told him he could to book his move for his college student. Well, the son took that as carte blanche and had packaging services, everything you could possibly imagine. And it ended up being a $15,000 move. And the father said, I never authorized this. And it was the son's name on the bill of lading, but the father's credit card. So the father had a fairly easy plan to dispute the transaction because there was no proof that he participated in the transaction. That's a big one we see movers lose. If the name on the card does not match the name on the bill of lading, that should be a red flag, and you need to get the name of the cardholder added to the bill of lading as well, or at least some type of proof that they're authorizing this payment for Charlie Brown or whoever it may be.
Can you give me some examples or some, no pun intended, some remedies of steps that a mover can take to avoid that? Because I know when we're trying to process a payment, we sometimes will have, okay, great, here's the name, Mark Hershey, the address. It always asks you for the address, but sometimes you're not even going to get the address. You're using like their past address, if it matters or not. You're trying to run these cards through, they're showing up declined. You're chasing after them, but you don't really know. Or sometimes you're dealing with an office move, and Melissa, the office manager, goes, yeah, here you go, here's Dan's card, just run this through. And should there be like a form? Should we have a template, something that be filled out prior? Like, how can we make sure that we're avoiding someone from doing any type of chargeback? Because the biggest things that we hear is someone did a chargeback, I'm trying to fight it, and I'm going to lose.
When it comes to fighting chargebacks, one of the biggest things is just being in touch with your customers. Like they typically don't just go and initiate a chargeback without making you aware of something that they're not happy with. So as they make you aware of things that you're not happy with, take them serious. Not that you don't, but just know that they have a recourse, and the recourse is to go do a chargeback. You as the mover want to try and prevent that at all costs. So it might be worthwhile you giving a refund, a partial refund. It might be worthwhile you playing ball with them, especially if you don't feel the documents you have on that case are up to par. So you might even want to evaluate that and say, like, look, like I didn't get them to sign the bill of lading when they left. I'm probably not going to have a really good chance of winning this chargeback. So maybe I should play a little bit more ball with them as they call me and want to discuss remedies here. Outside of that, you really want to understand who's doing the job. So, okay, I'm moving you, Susie. Susie, at the end of the job, whose credit card is going to be used for this job? Is it going to be Susie? Is it going to be your card? Are we going to be using your husband's card or your son's card or whoever? And making sure that you ask these questions so that you know how to prepare the documents accordingly. Like your bill of lading, your estimate are ultimately the only material you have to go and fight this dispute. Like you'll have email correspondence and so forth as well, but that document's going to show the bank that they agreed to your terms and conditions. Specifically, if something got damaged, did you communicate to them what a damage policy looks like? What should they expect from you if you break their TV? And if you have their initial right next to it, it's a lot different than if you have nothing proving that you conveyed this to them. So what the mover can do is really just, you have to know your customer, ask them the questions about who's going to be performing the job, who's going to be paying for the job, Make sure that they sign your bill of lading. Like a lot of the CRMs out there, they let you add initials to certain areas on a bill of lading. So don't do 6 pages worth of terms and conditions and have one signature at the end. Have some initials throughout the document next to those important sections like damage policy, release of liability, the big ones that are going to help you win like certain types of chargebacks. Because there's really about 6 different main types of chargebacks that occur for different reason codes. The hardest to win is fraud, by all means. You have services not received, services not rendered, canceled services, fraud, different payment method, like we paid with a check and now you billed my credit card too. And double billing, like you already billed me for this transaction. So, and there actually might even be more than 6. But anytime you get a dispute, you're not trying to respond with every little tidbit that happened about this job. Like, what did the customer say? Like, what's the dispute? And then you prepare your response to combat their dispute. You don't tell them they love my crew, they gave them a tip, we all hugged when we left, we have a picture together. Like, that's not going to help you win.
Does it not fine when you're telling the credit card process, like, look, everything went fine. The customer never complained about any damages. They've done a full chargeback on the move saying that we didn't perform the job, up to par, but they left a 5-star Google review with a picture of my crew. Like, does that not hold any accountability?
Not really. But I have one of those 5-star reviews with a picture with the crew like going on right now. So I'll have to see what happens with it. But no, it's really just terms and conditions. So like Visa has a like 60-page chargeback document out there. I actually built a ChatGPT, like a custom GPT where I uploaded this document to, and now I can like ask it questions. And I would actually encourage you all to, if you Google Visa chargeback and dispute guidelines, it'll produce a PDF. Take that PDF, go into ChatGPT, Anatai at SmartMoving can teach you all about AI, and then go ahead and create a custom GPT, and you can actually ask it questions like, I'm doing recurring billing for storage. What are a couple of things that I need to be aware of to make sure I'm protected against a chargeback? Sending out an email receipt to customers is going to be one of those things, but it will outline like the section that it pulled that from, and it'll tell you how to implement it. So it's pretty cool.
Will that still be a similar application towards like MasterCard or Amex? Like in a sense of like a guideline, at least?
They have a published guide online. So you would basically grab all these guides, put them together, add it as the resource for the GPT to look things up. And yeah, you could use it for MasterCard as well.
Okay. I had a previous question and then I totally forgot, but that's fine. When we talk about the chargebacks, what about when it comes down to like, is there any additional, you were talking before, you had some easy resources that you can share for us to try and have, to avoid a certain, any types of chargebacks that could happen. Now we talked about, making sure that you are identifying this with the customer, have a good idea of what happened during the move, if there was a damage claim or anything else, trying to get that resolved before they're going to go ahead and turn around and do a chargeback. But when it actually does happen, does Remedy, how do you win? Like, does Remedies kind of stand behind it? Is there any pull where we're reaching out to you going like, what happened here? Right? Because isn't it like Remedy and then you still have Authorized Charge or
Authorized.net is like think of it as a middleware, like a gateway where transactions get securely sent back and forth. But the party that's making the decision on whether you win or lose a chargeback, and this is going to sound crazy, it's your customer's credit card issuer. So when you dispute a transaction, what you're doing is you're going out to the issuer, and the issuer is disputing the transaction with Remedy or with our back-end banks, and then we're passing that information along to you. And so we are helping you assemble your case, put together all your documents that the issuer is going to review. Now, when the issuer reviews this case, what's happening is they're taking that guide that we talked about and they're applying it to this case to determine if you should win or if you should lose. And so it's really the issuer, not the remedy credit card processor or other type of company out there that's making that decision. But where we separate ourselves is just knowing how to assemble those cases, how to highlight what movers need to highlight when they're fighting these cases. Because last year we saw about 6,200 chargebacks, and we won about 83% of the time. And so it really just comes down to movers don't always get chargebacks, but when they do, it's always like a big chore to figure out, how do I respond? Where do I respond? What do they need? What do I want to do? But when you work with a credit card processor that offers some services for chargebacks, they're going to work hand in hand with you. They're going to ask you for specific documents. Like, for example, if you had a fraud chargeback, one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that you have as a mover for a card not present transaction, meaning manually typed in, is going to be the receipt from your payment gateway. So you mentioned authorize.net. When I log into authorize.net and I pull up the receipt for that transaction, there will be an address response, an AVS response. If I show a positive AVS response, that means that the address that the credit card issuer had on file matched the address that I input. And so I can prove a little bit that the cardholder participated in the transaction because I knew their address. And so there's little details, little things like that that you just need to be aware of, like how you win that case. So fraud, you want to have a copy of that receipt, no matter, you're going to include your bill of lading and other documents as well, but you want that receipt showing that positive AVS match.
So you definitely want to make sure that when you are putting in the customer's details for the credit card, that you have also the current address that it's associated with, right? That's the big pull. Not even just like the postal code, but you want to have like the exact address of where that card was issued.
The two things that are getting validated are going to be the street number. So like we're 17291 Irvine Boulevard. It would validate 17291, and then it would validate our zip code of 92780. It can't validate the street, the city, the state, and so forth. But those are the two items that will show a positive address match. So if you're talking with your customers and you're collecting payment over the phone from your customers, it's important to ask, like, I know you're moving. Have you updated your billing address in this credit card? What's the address associated with this credit card? Like, have a 2-second conversation about it, reminding them that they might have updated or might not have before you ask for that address. If they're giving it to you over the phone, if they're entering it through a portal, there are ways to make the transaction reject if the address doesn't match, but there are more negative implications to doing that than there would be the benefit. And the negative implications are this. If I say I'm going to do a $5,000 transaction, I reach out to the issuer, the customer's credit card, I put a hold for $5,000. We then come back to the payment gateway and we match if the address matched or not. If the address doesn't match, that $5,000 authorization for the first transaction will remain live for 24 hours. So now if you bill them again with the correct address, you're going to have $10,000 held on their credit card, 2 $5,000 transactions. They might not have the balance. We learned this also early on, where it's wonderful to have a positive AVS match, but if you employ this method, like, you're going to have a lot of customers that have failed transactions.
Good to know. When it comes down to Remedy and Smart Moving, because we work with Smart Moving, and so I kind of want to just touch on that one. I'm not too sure about everybody else. I remember over the last couple of years, the big thing is, ooh, great, my CRM has an open API. Oh, my payment processing software that we work with, they also have an open API. This open API sounds all fine and dandy because everything can be integrated, but why hold everybody that has Smart Moving to only being able to work with Remedy?
And it's not so much that you're held to Remedy, it's that you're held to the integration.
Yes, you are.
Well, you're held to the integration.
Okay.
And so, like, what we did is we integrated Remedy's payment solution into Smart Moving. We're one payment provider with one integration. Now, if we added additional integrations in there, what's going to happen is every time we make a change to Smart Moving's platform, you're going to have to manage this whole suite of integrations. And at what point do you say that enough payment integrations is enough? Because somebody else is going to want another option. And so what we're trying to do at Smart Moving and by using Remedy is we're trying to make it so that we can continue to build out this technology stack in one ecosystem with one like unified product rather than having 16 different products that aren't working in the same motion together. And so that's really the reason why software providers like Smart Moving end up choosing just one payment processor. It's also that when it comes to providing support. So like when you have an integration into the software, if something changes behind the scenes, now Smart Moving's trying to work with 25 different credit card processors to resolve an issue when they might only have 2 or 3 users of that company. So by having everyone also on one platform, you really bridge that gap between Smart Moving and then the processor because we talk together behind the scenes. So if you present a problem to us, we know how to solve it because we work with Smart Moving.
But if everybody that, is typically using a payment processor has to utilize something like authorize.net because they're like kind of the middleman to make sure that everything is functioning, I guess. If they were using someone like I'm coming onto a new platform, whether it's I'm switching over to, and I'm assuming this probably falls in line with a couple other CRMs that you work with as well too. If they have another payment processing that company has an open API, what is the integration that is constantly changing that does not make it work? Like I totally get what you're saying. It totally makes logical sense of going, especially from the CRM usage of it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around those that are listening going, yeah, but I am with a Moneris, or I am with a payment processing that I've been with for years. I really enjoy them. But I really want to have it integrated with Smart Moving. Where is the disconnect to make that work? Like,
Gotcha.
I just don't understand because I'm still putting the name of the credit card, and I'm submitting the payment. Like, where is there an issue?
The disconnect comes from, like, in Canada, we use authorize.net. We don't use it in the States. We use a different one called Anywhere Commerce. But Remedy had to build a middleware, which is basically the hosted payment page that you're going on to where you're entering this data. So we had to build that, and we're essentially connecting your authorize.net account with our hosted pages, all for security protocol. So there wouldn't be a way to just take an auth.net account, plug it into Smart Moving without going through Remedy, because we have all of the security protocol built for those pages where you're going to be entering the data, saving the card data, and so forth.
What's up, guys? It's Austin Yarrow with the Moving Army. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you're crushing it, you're growing your business, and you don't need any help. Majority of you probably don't. But the thing is that information alone isn't enough. If you're looking for someone to hold you accountable, work with you, and collaborate with others in our industry with teams that are killing it, crushing it, you need to join the Moving Army. This is my invitation to you. You can text my personal cell, 805-441-6118. I'll see you soon and wait for your call. Join the Moving Army today.
Hi, I'm Mark Hershey with Salmon's Moving and Storage. Today, I want to talk about Tighten Up training. Why? Because this is Netflix grade quality training. It's not those old videos and VHSs that you got hiding in your office somewhere. It's online, it's easy to use, they're short videos, but they get to the point. My new employees, these guys run through these training programs, there's tests at the end, and they're coming out going, oh, I'm ready to rock. So if you haven't checked out Tighten Up training yet, get a demo done. Get on board. Guess what else is there? Online portals for my sales staff. Can you believe it? These guys can learn how to overcome objections and book more leads today. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Tighten Up training today.
So for someone else that says, oh, okay, I'm going to stick with my other payment processing, they would have to do a totally different step. They might be using, let's say, either one of those middle grounds. So the authorize.net or the
Anywhere Commerce.
Yeah. But instead of going through the payment processing of Smart Moving, they almost have to skip that and almost either just put like credit card or make like another breakdown. They're just not going to probably be able to enter that customer's information to process it. They'll have to go always to Authorize.net to enter all the details in, process that transaction, and then like talk to Smart Moving and make it work. Like that's what is that kind of what you're saying? Because it's just that
You'd
type of
have
integration just won't work efficiently.
it would, yeah, Authorize.net wouldn't talk to Smart Moving directly. You'd have to go into Authorize.net. You could process all your transactions directly in Authorize.net, but then you would come into Smart Moving and then click credit card record only and manually record those transactions. So you have the option to process outside. You can't do it in an integrated fashion. And more of that's even changing right now with a lot of the new technology that we're going to build. We're actually looking at trying to build a chargeback management tool in Smart Moving so that movers won't have to go and try and assemble all these documents and cases. We're looking at how we can do that like automatically. So
nice.
A lot of that's coming as well.
I like it. Well, Alex, listen, Mondays, we do the Box of Truth. Brought to you by Movified Nation, where movers talk about stuff no sales rep will. And Movified Masterminds, which is your go-to place for groups of successful business owners. If you want to help grow your moving company, make sure you check out movifiednation.com, select Masterminds, fill out that quick form, and we will work with you hand in hand of putting you in the right group and the right mastermind group. So it's a fantastic, but Box of Truth. Are you ready? Because I'm going to hit you with a couple boxes of truth. All right. Who came up with the name Remedy?
Who came up with the name Remedy? When I came up with Remedy, what we did was we just started all writing names on the board. We went through like 500 or 600 names. It was something that the office that I had at the time, like all of us kind of just put together. We had tried coming up with pineapple, mango, orange. Like we legit were just writing down names of businesses that we would see off of billboards driving for a solid like 3 months. And then we came up with Remedy collectively, like as a group, all of us.
All right. Collectively, I heard some inside scoop on this one. That's why I have to ask you the question.
No, I mean, I still have the whiteboard that we would all write on. It was just something.
I'm just bugging you. What's one question every mover should ask a payment processor that most never do?
When I have a chargeback, how are you going to notify me and how are you going to help me?
What's one hidden fee or clause that causes the most damage long term?
It's really the monthly fixed fees. Like, so you get credit card processors that throw in like monthly fixed fees. I saw one recently called an infrastructure upgrade fee. It was $499. I asked the company, I said, have you noticed a change to the infrastructure? And they said no. And so I was like, okay, well, this is just a BS fee that somebody threw on there. And so you'll get a lot of those annual fees that you kind of have to watch out for because they just hit your statement once and then they're gone.
Last question. This wasn't on here, but I'm going to ask it now. For those that don't have resources to go, oh, cool, I have an Alex in the back of my pocket, right? Like for me, I had Zach in the back of my pocket, right? Like, you know, that have worked in the payment processing field in the past where you're going, hey, you know, and a lot of times too, if you're part of a BNI, some type of networking group, there's usually always somebody that is offering payment solutions for companies, for businesses as well too. Maybe you haven't built a strong trust with them. What's a way that someone can at least try and figure out the right questions? Right? Because like for myself, I can go, okay, cool. Like I can just reach out to Alex and go, hey, like what's with this? What's with this issue? Right? How can I avoid this? And a lot of us, you know, that are listening or watching going, like, I don't have that option. I feel like I have no idea what I'm looking at when I'm looking at statements, especially those to ask going, you know, what is that hidden fee? Right? Where can it cause the most damage? Where now I'm paying all this extra money that I would have never expected to pay. Can I take like my statements and run it through ChatGPT? Like, should I be asked those kind of questions? Like, how can I try and find a better solution to find the questions that I need to ask? That was a long-winded question. Sorry.
It's hard. I mean, ChatGPT could be an excellent resource to also just ask like, what types of fees should I look for on my statement? But again, Your credit card processor shouldn't be getting rich off of you. Like, they should be making a reasonable margin. You really need to find someone that you're going to be able to work with long term and just grow with. And if somebody says they're going to save you $10 or $50, just understand that that might not be real. And so as you try and as you try and get like the lowest possible price and you know what questions to ask, it's really just about building a relationship with a company. If you're working with someone and you haven't talked to them in a year, if you're working with someone and you don't feel like you have a relationship with them, call them, ask them something and see what it's like before you actually need something. Like, call them when you don't need something and see how you get helped. And then that way you know when you're ready, like if you have the right partner or not. And if you don't, then consider looking for another partner. But you should be able to reach out to your processor, and they shouldn't be baking in all these hidden fees either.
I like it. All right, those are all the heavy questions. I feel like, you know what, for everybody, look, I really wanted to hit Alex with all of the heavy duty issues that we see happen all day, every day. So, Alex, you can drop your shoulders now. Let's just kind of start right from the beginning. Like, take me back. Like, what made you want to start Remedy?
So I owned a telecommunication company out in Savannah, Georgia that my dad ran. We did international calling cards. So if you want to call Guatemala, Honduras, wherever, we were doing a lot in sales that were just slowly declining because of all the new apps that were coming out that allowed for free international calling. And so we had a network about 5,000 convenience stores, and I wanted something else to sell. Everyone else started selling pocket knives, sex pills, like everything you can imagine that you find at a convenience store. And I said, I don't want to do that. And so I had a buddy of mine who owned a payments company. His name was Jeff Brosley. He founded Chosen Payments. And so I partnered with him, started offering credit card processing to all of our stores, built up a nice little commission, closed down that business, moved back to California, and worked at his office out in Moorpark, California. He was big in the limousine industry. And so he had joined the associations, done the parties, kind of exactly how I ended up rolling out Remedy. And so we joined the moving association. California Moving Association was the first one, realized that movers needed some help. We saw the chargeback issue. We saw that there wasn't a dominant player, like just helping them out. And so slowly just started doing more and more in the moving industry, and then just joined another association and organically grew from there.
What does it take? Like, hey, you know what? I want to start a payment processing company tomorrow.
It doesn't take a lot.
Really? Like, I'm just saying,
No.
like,
I mean, it takes a lot if you want to have your own brand and you want to have your own customer support and your own operations, but you can go and you can find a Moneris or a credit card processor and say, I want to be an agent. And basically, I'm just going to refer deals back to you all. You guys are going to service them. You're going to dictate the pricing. You're going to determine when rates get raised, but I'm going to funnel you deals. So you can do that fairly easy and get a reasonable revenue share that you could build up a book of business on, and then you could use that to go into the next thing. The problem is that today in credit card processing, if you're not trying to go in and be an endorsed integrated solution, you're just wasting time, because eventually everything's going to get to software at some point. And when they do, there's going to be a credit card processor that you have to use on that platform. And so if that's not you, you're going to get pushed out eventually. So really to focus on those relationships and see what you could do from that perspective.
Is that kind of where Remedy decided to kind of go into? Because, you know, like you said, you joined the California Association of Movers. You start going to trade shows. I remember way back being at an Atlas conference in like 2018 and running into you and Zach at like one of the booths. You guys were, you know, one of the newer payment processing companies out there, you know, trying to build up a reputation. What made you go, okay, like there's something in the moving industry compared to other home services that we can really target?
Again, it was the fragmentation of the market. You had all these software providers, none of which were really mandating you had to use a credit card processor. And then you had a lot of people not on software at that time as well. They were just still on pen and paper. And so I looked at joining the PHCC, the plumbing, heating, cooling, like HVAC industry. And I was like, oh my God, there's like 20,000 people here. Let's go. And then we realized that there's Service Titan in-house Call Pro that owns 90% of the market, and we can't be the integrated processor. So we joined an association for like $5,000 and bailed out. And so that's kind of where that I see the focus is now, is really just trying to get into that integrated ISV solution.
When it comes to the growth, you obviously found a strong relationship with Smart Moving.
Yes.
Recently or not recently, I've heard two different stories, but there's been a great merger with Remedy and Smart Moving. What does that mean for everybody, and especially those that are, not using Smart Moving as a payment processing?
I mean, Remedy, we continue to support the industry as a whole. So if you're using another software provider, we're going to continue to support you. We don't share data. Like, it's not like, oh, I have a Move It Pro customer. Here you go, Smart Moving, go call them and see if you can get them. Like, no, we're ethical people. Like, I've worked with Move It Pro for years. Great.
Don't worry, Jason, you're safe. Don't worry.
But yeah, what was your question again?
I totally threw you off. Sorry. Basically, just the merger of,
what does it mean?
Of Smart Moving. Yeah, because what does it mean? How does it mean? Like, what is that feeling like to be looking at, from a bird's eye view, doing this for the last, 8 years, 10 years, going, man, I finally have built this up. I've now, can kind of almost like sit back a little bit more. And I've taken it from nothing, and now working together with Smart Moving, to me, is like a huge, great acquisition merger of two great minds. So, what does that look like for yourself and the growth in the future?
I can tell you it doesn't mean taking a step back. It means taking 2 more steps in. And so we're definitely just pumped to bring new technology to the moving industry. So as a startup and as a payment processor, like, I have limited resources that I can use over here. Now, Smart Moving, given the investment that they had from Mainsail, they have a whole development team, a product team that I now have access to. So as I have these ideas and say, I think this is something our customers would really appreciate, I have the team behind the scenes that can help me make that a reality. They can execute on a product roadmap, they can execute on an integration, and just confirm that we're going to continue to build new products. We have a lot on the map for 2026. Like, there's at least 10 to 15 different payment related enhancements that we're working on. And so I think by the end of the year, people are going to start to see, like, it just accelerated what Remedy can do with Smart Moving, and it accelerated Remedy as a whole. But overall, we're still here to support the industry. It's not a big industry, so we make money off of volume. We need volume. So we're happy to work with anyone. The only software provider that we don't work with and that we have no plans on working with right now, or not the only, but one of the only, is going to be Supermove. That's not one that we anticipate doing an integration with.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So Remedy does not work with Supermove.
We have not. And even prior to the acquisition, we had no desire to do that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I guess the follow-up question to that is, with all these new improvements, having this team looking at going, man, this is I finally have the resources to really take a lot of the concerns, issues, some of the innovations that I want to apply for Remedy into Smart Moving. Does that also look at applying it to the other CRMs as well too? Because some of those new integrations, now having this, I could see them knocking on your door going, okay, cool. Like, can we do this with my CRM? Can we do this with our software? How does that combine in?
One of the beauties here is, as a credit card processor, like, we really build nothing. And so Smart Smart Moving's going to build everything that they want to build. If somebody else wants to build it, build it up.
Gotcha.
We'll be here to support anyone that wants to build, though.
Yeah, that's a great spot to be in, for sure. I like it. Man, this has been great, Alex. I feel like I could just kind of keep talking to you about all kinds of things. Before I let you go, what was the biggest lesson you learned through starting up this company to now?
A lot of lessons. Scalable solutions. Build with scalable solutions. Don't build with pen and paper and build with solutions that you're going to have to later on change because they're not scalable. They're very manual. Put processes in places if you were a bigger business and where you want to go, not where you're at today. I've had to do so much cleanup on just our Salesforce iterances, the way that we did applications, the CRMs that we were using. And it's a lot of work to manually do it and then to try and get all your manual processes into a CRM. So if there's a way that you can put those standard procedures in place that are scalable right from the beginning, I would try and do that as much as possible. That was my biggest challenge.
What's the best advice that someone's ever given you?
Best advice that someone's given me. I don't know. No one's
Clearly,
really
not,
given me any great
clearly
advice.
clearly not a good one. Well, I feel like you're doing pretty good on your own, so I don't even have to worry about it. Awesome. Well, you know what? This full wrap is, it really kind of broke it down, right? Alex broke down how to evaluate processes, avoid bad deals, lower fees responsibly, protect your cash flow. I think one of the biggest things I don't think we really touched too much on is how important it is to have those consumables. You are getting charged a merchant fee on every transaction. Charge your customer back. I see it on everything. And you don't even have to make it high. I've seen some where they were like, oh, if you're using your credit card, it's a 3%, 4%, 5%. You can keep it as low as 2%. That 2% is better than nothing than you had before. And it's really going to help alleviate when you're getting, $2,000 to $4,000 bill at the end of the month for all the credit card processing that you're doing. So, definitely look at that. And one of the great things that I love about Smart Moving is you can always waive it. It's as simple as clicking a button to waive that credit card processing fee, but at least you have it in there. And I love seeing that get charged, especially on the big jobs that we do, because I know that the credit cards are making their fees. I want to make sure that I'm making it back as well, too. Review your merchant statement this week, line by line. Run it through. Go through the Visa, MasterCard, American Express documents. Where are they looking for again? What should they be typing in?
On their statement, I mean, they're going to be...
not their statements. They're just going to go through the statements. But as for chargebacks and understanding what to search.
In terms of like going on to ChatGPT and searching, I would just kind of present what type of transaction. So I'm doing a move, I'm going to accept a deposit, like just explain the transaction that you're trying to process, whether it's going to be card present, meaning that doesn't mean that the card's present. That means that you're using an actual mobile reader or device, or are you typing it in? And then if you give it that data, it'll spit out a good answer.
Nice. And if you're looking at switching over to a payment processing, a new processor, make sure they understand the moving industry and that they're asking the right questions and that you are making sure that you are giving them the right answers to how your company is operating. Look, you can learn more about Remedy Payments and Smart Moving integration. You can reach out to Remedy for a demo. They can run you through, or you can reach out to the team at Smart Moving or any of your CRM teams if you're not using Remedy and going, how can this work? It's as easy as reaching out to Remedy, providing them with 3 months of your current statements and letting them analyze it through. Doesn't cost you any money to do so. But I'm sure they could probably find some line items where you could save and probably be worth the switch over. So do it. Like, get on it. Do it this week. Why not? Don't wait till the summertime when you're doing tons of moves and getting hit with tons of fees. Alex, thank you for cutting through all the noise. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Can we share, do you have a contact? Can they reach out to you, or should they be are you just too busy? You should be reaching out to someone
Honestly, just reach out to me.
Okay, cool. We'll put your LinkedIn contact details. Okay, cool. We'll have that on there. For all those that are working with Remedy and you have questions or concerns, maybe you hate them, maybe you love them. We'd love to hear about it. Share it in your comments. Let us know, because then I can shoot it back to Alex, and maybe we have to have a part 2 when summertime kicks in to respond to everybody's concerns or happiness. I have no idea. I feel like it's a 80-20. 80 good. 80 good. Don't worry, Alex. 80 good. But yeah, please follow, subscribe, like, comment. We love you guys. We really appreciate all those that follow and listen. I couldn't do this without you, and I couldn't do it with all the guests on here. Stay movified, and until Wednesday. Thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.